What is up, everybody? Ethan Newbear, the Ginger Runner, here for another gingerrunner.com review. Today we're going back to the watches. GPS style watch from Suunto. This is the Suunto Ambit3 Vertical. I'm a big data guy. I like looking at all the stats and all the gain and mileage, all that stuff on Strava, and I like to keep track of it. Watch is important. Let's get this thing off so we can talk about it. Boom. This is the latest and greatest from Suunto. The Vertical falls somewhere in between the Suunto Ambit3 Peak and Ambit3 Sport. It is a GPS-enabled watch catering to those who like to record and follow stats related to altitude, vertical, climbing, gain, all that stuff. Almost has all the features of the Peak, has essentially the same features as the Sport with a couple of added ones. I'm going to talk about those now. It's lighter, 74 grams versus 89 grams for the Ambit3 Peak and 80 grams for the Sport. The battery life, about the same as the Ambit Sport, nowhere near as much battery power as the Peak. They added a vibration alert in the watch, and it utilizes the FusedAlti technology, much like the Peak. Basically a combination of barometric altitude and GPS altitude. Supposedly supposed to give you a more accurate altitude and elevation profile for each of your activities. And finally, price. Price is another major difference. The Ambit3 Peak being the pinnacle sport watch from Suunto at anywhere from $599, $650. It varies in price greatly, and the Vertical falls into that $470 to $520 depending on where you get it. Sometimes you can find it even cheaper than that. Okay, so those are the facts about the watch, how it differs from some of the other Ambit series, but now let's get into the review. As many of you know, this is the watch that I have been rocking for a long time, over a year now. This is the Suunto Ambit3 Peak. It's tracked every single one of my activities. I used it in my 100-miler, zero problems. Love this thing. So when Suunto came out with another watch, I was like, well, yeah, sure. I'll see if it even compares to my Peak experience. After putting the Vertical through its paces, there are a number of things that I really like about it that are different than the Peak, but there's still a number of things that I have problems with that are not just Vertical specific, and we'll get to those in this review. All right, let's start with things that I like about the Suunto Ambit3 Vertical. Comfort. Compared to the Ambit3 Peak, this watch is like a pillow on your wrist. Doesn't make sense. I love that Suunto did away with that giant nub that is right here on the Peak. By removing that on the Vertical, it just gives you more wrist comfort. They've done it in other watches. I'm glad that they're doing it in their higher end watches. It makes for good wrist feel. That is a combo of words I never thought I would say. But then you take into consideration the lightness, the weight it's barely anything, and it just fits so good on the wrist. I love the comfort. Finally, vibrating alert. It is so small, it is so subtle, but it is something that I've been wanting in a watch for a long time. The vibration can clue me into when I reach each mile. I can turn it off completely. I just like having the option to have it to alert me so I can keep track of my miles in my head, don't necessarily have to look down at the watch. Yay for vibrations! Another cool feature that they added just for the Vertical was route altitude. If I plug in a route into this watch that I want to follow, which I've done in the past, you now have a screen where you can watch yourself tracked along the elevation of your route. It's great for a race scenario where you know you have climbs ahead, you don't know how long they are, maybe you forget how many feet you have to climb. You can watch yourself climb on the screen of the watch. It just helps mentally to get you over those big hurdles, and I think that's a nice addition. Okay, now let's move on to things that I dislike. Battery life, I mentioned it earlier, it's about half the battery life statistics of the Peak, and I noticed it significantly on many of my activities. In one instance, I left the trailhead with 80% battery on the watch. I was following a route, so it was taking a little bit more data and battery usage. It was a 15-mile route. By the time I got to mile 10, the battery was dead. Luckily, I knew where I was, I knew how to get back to the car, but ultimately, that is terrible battery life. If you're just looking for a watch to use on a day-to-day basis where you're going to charge it at night, honestly, you're not going to get much of a problem with this. But if you're doing longer adventures or multi-day adventures or you forget to charge your watch, you're going to run into issues. Price. This is a problem that I've had with a lot of watches. It's not just Suunto, it's pretty much every GPS watch that has advanced features, and that's that it's super expensive. Anywhere from $470 to $520. It's a lot of money to spend. I thoroughly believe that watches, especially really good watches, are an integral tool to help you train better. And I've said it in past reviews, I do think it's worth the price, but it really is expensive. It's a one-time purchase. It will last you for years, I guarantee you. It's just, are you willing to bite off such a big chunk? It might be time to use your REI dividend. It's a bit inaccurate. I've had a number of problems with this watch in particular being anywhere from 1/10 to 1/4 of a mile long on any workout from 5 to 10 miles. Anything beyond that, and it just compounds that factor. In addition, without the FusedAlti feature in effect, then this thing just begins to track elevation completely wrong. I did a half marathon race recently, 1,200 feet of gain. This watch reported 2,400 feet. Listen, I love the extra statistics. I love thinking that I ran 2,400 feet of gain in that race, but it's double what it really was. So when it's using the fused altimeter, it's definitely working, but if you're not using that, my final dislike isn't Vertical specific, but really applies to the Vertical, the Peak, and multiple watches from Suunto and their software on the back end, and that's its connection to the MovesCount app and MovesCount website. I have had nothing but problems. Many Suunto watches allow you to sync the watch directly to the app on the phone. However, for some reason, my watch hates syncing with my phone and takes forever, completely undermining the fact that the app works in such a way. I no longer sync the watch with the app, also wastes a ton of battery, so I only sync this watch through my computer into the website, which poses another problem if I ever want to create a workout, which you can only do in the app. You can't get that onto the watch through the website. Problem. Just to show you what I'm dealing with, I have the app open, I have the watch ready to sync. Let's see how long it takes, shall we? Well, first of all, the watch literally has to be touching my phone. It says it's syncing. Wait for it. Wonder how that March Madness stuff is going. Basketball, still syncing. Oh, I've never seen it make it this far before. Hey Kim, what are we having for dinner? Sushi. I like sushi. Just to give you an idea how long I've been waiting, my camera ran out of memory and battery. Oh, and look at that. It disconnected, didn't even finish syncing. Every single time. That feature, no bueno for me. Which sucks because I really want to utilize the app to create workouts. So the Moves Count app, Moves Count website integration is off in my opinion. Once you get everything set on the website and sync it to your watch so your watch is just ready to go, and you don't have to change your watch from that point forward, it's a solid piece of gear. One thing I hate is navigating through small screens trying to get things to work. I totally understand that. So having the web integration is a huge benefit. But if I'm out in the backcountry and I have no internet signal whatsoever, or I'm having just phone issues in general, I'm gonna get aggravated. And really, to be honest, I don't wanna get text messages. I don't wanna get calendar updates. I don't wanna get emails through my watch. That is not why I got the watch. That is why I have my cell phone. So all that stuff I don't care about. The syncing with the phone is cool, but you gotta get it to work. And if you do get it to work, you gotta make it fast. Get it back on the wrist for the points. So that is it for likes and dislikes about the Suunto Ambit3 Vertical. Don't get me wrong, every watch that I've used from Suunto, whether it's the Vertical or the Peak or the Ambit3 previous version, rock solid piece of gear. I'd be happy to add it to my arsenal at any time. They do not fail, unlike other watches that I've had in the past. But really, I think the weakest connection is literally this watch's connection to the internet, to Moves Count, and to the app. If you can get past that, you're in for an awesome stat tracker. So let's get on with the points, shall we? Quality. I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5. Durability-wise, thing is through the roof. Really good at docking for the battery, and separately for the connection to Moves Count and the Moves app. Comfort. 5 out of 5. I think it's vastly improved from previous versions by removing that nub. Fits on my wrist nicely. I can get it nice and tight. I can loosen it up a little bit. Price, I'm gonna have to give them 2 out of 5 purely because this is priced so closely to the higher priced Peak that a part of me is almost like just splurge that extra $100 or whatever and get the Peak because it's a solid build watch. Gives you almost every single feature that the Vertical has other than being able to track your elevation for the week, which I would do online anyways, and not being able to see where you are vertically in a course profile, which is a feature I think is really cool but not always necessary. And finally, looks. I know that it's barely applicable for a watch, but it's a good looking watch. I'm gonna give it 5 out of 5. I think this color is awesome. They have the blue and black, which is surprising because I sort of Frankenstein this blue and black together long before they released their blue and black version. They have just a black version and a white version. Colors are rad, looks are rad. 5 out of 5. That brings our grand total to 16 out of 20 for the Suunto Ambit3 Vertical. I think it's a really good score for a really solid watch. Just know that with much of the Suunto line, any integration with the Moves Count app or the Moves Count website is going to be a bit tedious at times, but once it's set, you're good to go. And now before I wrap up this review, I know what you guys are gonna say in the comments. When are you gonna review the Garmin Fenix 3 or the Polar blah blah blah? Guys, it's on the list. I hope to do it soon. I know that I wanna compare all of these watches so you guys get the best reviews possible. Just be patient. It'll happen. Hopefully. In the meantime, tweet at Garmin. Hopefully they'll hook me up with a review sample because they're not responding to emails. And that's it. If you guys have any questions about the Vertical, if you want to look up all the stats, all the things about the watch that make it cool, got a link in the description, plus a discount code over at Running Warehouse that you can use on multiple items. So please click it, check it out. And if you like this review, make sure you like, favorite, and subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/thegingerrunner. Of course, on all social networks as well. Twitter @thegingerrunner, Facebook, facebook.com/thegingerrunner, Instagram, it's @EthanNewberry, of course, gingerrunner.com. If you want to help keep the lights on and the mic's hot, make sure you go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. For as little as $1 a month, you basically help everything happen here, and you get some cool perks on the back end and live Monday shows, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, guests, all sorts of stuff. Ginger Run a lot, don't miss those. Now get out there, train hard, race harder, party the hardest. I know I am. We'll see you guys next week. Okay, goodbye!